From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicki Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training Podcast. I'm going to be your host for this episode, and my name is Alan. Oh, wait, Bill. I always get confused. Anyway, who else do we have hosting?
I'm Vicki.
I'm Jennifer.
I'll be Alan this time.
You're going to be Alan, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
You're a much better Alan than I
All
am,
good.
so, you've had years of practice. So
It's been
All
a
right.
while since you guys have been on,
It
hosts.
is. We got all of us, all
I
four
I
of us.
know.
It's like a 4-pack or a grand slam or a grand salami. Well, we have the guest who I believe is either tied or in the lead for the most times on our podcast. Her little video says Tiger Queen. We know her as the purple-haired lady. She's one of our favorites. She is the lead dog for Lucky Dog. We have Cathy Foose. Come on, Cathy. Say hi.
Well, hello there, dear. We miss all of you guys.
Yes, we have not seen you in real life since Laguna Seca, which we're bragging and happy about, but not happy we haven't seen you since then.
Yes.
So, Cathy, you're running Lucky Dog. The big reason we have you coming is you're coming east for the first time ever, and there is no way we're missing that. And
Woohoo!
we are going to try, and we are going to succeed. We don't know how long it'll last, but we are bringing 3 cars. We don't know who's driving. We don't know who's towing, but we got 3 cars, and we're going to bring them to you.
I love it. I love it.
We're a
Coming
glutton
out
for
in-
punishment.
I know. Well, I've seen you guys in action. I've seen you in action. So I could only imagine 3 cars. But I was thinking about the last time that I have been in Charlotte, because I was a co-founder and executive VP for Champ Car for 6 years. So I've certainly been at that track a couple times. But the last time we were there, they were working on that Megatron or whatever they call it, and a backhoe hit all the electrical at the track and took out all 16 timing loops.
Awesome.
So this time I'm hoping we go back and have fully operational equipment, and they didn't have the 2 chicanes the last time I personally drove that track. So we're really, really jazzed. And yeah, for Lucky Dog, this is our East Coast debut, and the response so far has been incredibly exciting and welcoming. We obviously know a lot of people from the days of traveling back there, and we have quite a following with a lot of the Lemonsteins who haven't had a chance to race there yet.
Right. How is the registration going for this race? Do we still have
Awesome.
spots?
Awesome. Yeah, that's a big enough track. Our policy is we'll take 35 cars per mile of pavement. So we definitely have room for a few more entries. The early dog discount deadline ends on August 1st. So I want to make sure that everybody gets back from all their vacations and gets registered.
So let's take a little bit of a dive into the Lucky Dog in the age of COVID. How has things been on the West Coast?
That's a very interesting question, because like the rest of the country, we're living this, day by day and daily as things change, especially here in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we did have to cancel 2 of our races in April and early May of this year. And by the grace of God, we've actually been able to go to 3 races in the last 4 weeks. And what was interesting is we started up in Washington at Pacific Raceways. The following week, drove all the way back down to Southern California to Willow Springs. The following week after that, all the way back to Washington to the Ridge. So it feels really good to be home, but we're actually getting ready to go back up to the Pacific Northwest in about 10 days. And one of the things that I was looking at, for the month of June, we drove 3,200 miles just on the West Coast.
Wow.
And while that's quite a feat, the thing that was hysterical was it equated to 53 hours being in the car with my husband, Greg Fuss. And the fact that both of us—
Is that like community service you got
survived.
sentenced to, or what happened there? What was the— did you—
Oh my God,
Community
it was—
service.
No, that's straight hard time. Straight hard time.
It's straight hard time. So
Nothing like quality time in the car with your spouse during a pandemic to really get you close. I mean,
oh my
it's
God, where we
beautiful.
catch up. Yes, it's a beautiful moment, but it was really interesting preparing for that first race in a COVID environment. This was up in Seattle. The race didn't get approved by the county and the governor's office till like the week before, so that was a little bit crazy with all these racers calling at the last, every minute, are we on? And that particular track, actually, we were the first endurance racing team or series in North America to go racing since the pandemic. So there was a lot of pressure on this, and a lot of new policies in place, things like no all advance registration, no driver's meeting. I mean, we had to pay $1,500 and buy an enterprise version of Zoom so that we could have 400 to 500 drivers on a virtual driver's meeting. So that was kind of interesting. And then just all of the forms that go along with this. I mean, I always tease about this last year. One of the new things that we had to add to our motorsports insurance was terrorism insurance. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I would never thought in a million years that would be a part of my policy. Well, never in a million years did I think that folks would have to sign a liability waiver and a separate infectious disease waiver. And fortunately, we were able to do it all online. And I have to say, the teams were amazing. I mean, here we are showing up at a track with 400 people, no spectators allowed, and folks are supposed to be social distancing. We didn't use a pit lane just to make sure folks did social distance, but the whole having to wear a mask at all times unless you're wearing a helmet, and they did pretty good. But when we arrived in Seattle, it was an absolute monsoon. We lost 7 race cars hydroplaning into the front wall. We had thunder and lightning all the way around us most of the day. And I just looked around at all these soggy masks and thought, what the hell are we doing out here?
It's like waterboarding.
It was just like the universe was saying, didn't we give you a big enough message? So the second day was a whole lot better. But then, so I probably spent about 200 hours in COVID prep when it was all said and done, getting people ready for races and the staff and all the procedures and everything. Then we go to Southern California out in the desert, where you even wondered if news of the pandemic had reached that far. And there were no masks. They asked you to do social distancing, and it was easily over 100 degrees. And folks did the right stuff out there. And then we got back to the Ridge last week, and 100% masks in the state of Washington. We had delightful weather. We had a safe race. I tell you, one thing I'm a little worried about is a mask in August in Charlotte with incredible humidity.
No problem.
What's it like to— no problem?
Tell them to bring fans, lots of fans.
What we need to do is the sponsor of this event is Chill Out Systems. I'm sure you're familiar with them.
Absolutely.
And just what an incredible product they have. for keeping you cool. And what we need them to do is to do an attachment so that it blows into your mask while you're walking around as well. But I'm hoping that by the time that we get to Charlotte, that things will be settling down a little bit. But I think we all kind of thought that a couple months ago.
Yeah,
It's a rugged group of racers.
I believe they are. Yeah, we're a little bit trying to make adjustments on this end also, because we are bringing a car. We do have guests that are flying in from a highly contagious area. So we're not really able to camp share as easily as, say, we were before, when we would actually physically share our camper. And I'm just like, guys, we can bring everything that you need and we can camp share. I said, but we can't be in the same place, because technically, especially being on a flight, also coming and then going through all that, it's a little hairy for us. So we're trying to help them make other arrangements. Like, we can still do food, we can still do stuff like that and social distance. But, I think that the actual camp trailer sharing is just not a good idea at the moment. So we are making adjustments at the same time.
I would totally agree. I mean, that's one of the things with, most of these tracks are saying no spectators right now,
Right.
and essential crew. And so, where do you draw that line of, are you bringing your family? It's interesting because Charlotte says no kids, which, as a parent, that's probably the right thing to do. But, a lot of families come and do this for the weekend. So things have really changed in terms of, okay, I can't bring my entire fan club with me, and I can probably bring my dog, but I have to leave the kids at home. And I'm used to, like you said, sharing a camper with my team. Well, I think those days are kind of on hiatus. The good news is that Charlotte, we have all the garages and a huge paddock area for people to spread out and camp in. So I think it makes that a lot easier. But it's just the reminder of, the flurry that comes with pulling in for a pit stop, and people are, jumping over the wall, and then you find me screaming, "Put your mask on!"
Yeah.
So that's going to be the part that is usually continually a challenge, is, when they're jumping in there to take care of driver changes and those kinds of things. But
because they're not thinking at that point.
Right.
They're just reacting. They're going with the gut, and then you're like, oh, forgot my mask.
Yeah, forgot my mask. So it's interesting to see all the various masks too that show up, because of course everybody's been making masks. We have Lucky Dog masks, but I've seen some brilliant motorsports related masks. So it's almost become another cool accessory to have at the track. But I have to honestly say the drivers and crew are doing an awesome job. I've really had very little trouble policing that, and they really police each other. I mean, I don't know if it's that way in the East Coast and the Midwest, where you can't even go into a store without a mask. So
yeah, most of it,
really,
and I know in Connecticut and PA and the East Coast here, it seems like it's very tight. A lot of videos, people getting harassed going in stores. My friend was just over last night saying how he was staring down someone that day because they weren't wearing a mask and getting too close to him and pulling it down and this and that. I think some of the compliance from racers probably comes from the fact that we're required to wear all the safety gear anyway. So it's like, all right, I have to have socks, shoes, full suit. I got to have cotton underwear. I got to have a head sock. I got to, it's just a mask. Like, and most of us, well, I mean, some of us drive nicer cars, but most of us have more experienced cars that take a little work, and we have to wear PPE to keep the dust out of our nose and to keep the welding out of my eyes and all this other stuff. So, I don't know. From someone that's worked in blue collar, hey, listen, safety is what you do. I work with other people. Oh, you're always wearing gloves. I'm like, yeah, because I'm working all day. You touch the tool for 10 minutes. You didn't wear a glove. You're brave. Good job. I'm using tools all day, so I'm using PPE. It's just what we do.
No, that's definitely a good point, that we're kind of used to this routine of having all of these things to keep us safe, and it's one more item. And I know that out here, these people were so desperate to go racing. A lot of them haven't raced since like last October.
Right.
They would have done anything to be
Anything.
at a racetrack again.
Anything.
Anything. So I think part of it is they're just so thankful to be back on a racetrack again.
Yeah, I think the whole appreciation for racing, and the racing is a privilege. You know, it's you know, the last thing we want to do is something stupid and lose that ability to go have some of our fun. Even though there's other things that are much more important, we still like having fun, though. You know?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that is you kind of don't think about are things like, you know, we're all about social media, all of us when we're at the track, whether we're dropping our GoPro footage and pictures, and we want everybody to know we're real racers at real racetracks. And we have to be really careful of not taking that shot that shows everybody standing in a group without their mask, or, you know, a mask drop down. So the tracks have also, that's been one of the policies tracks have had too, is either no pictures of the event or it can only be of cars. So that's something that you have to catch yourself at it as well.
I see. So you said that there's no pit lane use now, so everybody's pitting in the paddocks. Is that how we're running?
Not at Charlotte. I think we're going to have a big enough area. In some cases, like we just ran at the Ridge, you know, we had 70-something cars. The track has 40 pit stalls. Usually they share them. We can't do that, so we allowed people to pit from the paddock, which a lot of people are accustomed to doing because that's how Lemons runs. As of right now, we're still trying to use the pit lane at Charlotte. They've got a good size pit lane, but if we end up with a ton of teams, we may have to make some last minute adjustments. And you bring up, you know, a good point. This is so fluid. By the time I talk to the track tomorrow to get the, you know, latest scoop on COVID, and I was double checking on the kids not being there, could be a totally different scenario than what we learned this last week. And same goes from when we arrive in Charlotte. So we need everybody just to be really flexible. We're all in this together.
Well, luckily our kids have press passes, so they're news, so they're exempt.
Nice. Nice.
What? Is this thing on?
Oh, it's on.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's on.
All right.
No, and I think the one thing you did where you had the Lucky Dog text where you can text out for everybody.
Right.
I know from our last race, that was beautiful, right? You put it out there, hey, these knuckleheads need an engine lift. 5 minutes later, some guy's like, hey, I got an engine lift. You got to move it yourself. I'm like, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
So-
that's really been helpful. And so we do put out reminders, you know, during the day, make sure you're social distancing, make sure, you know, and we now have what we call the COVID box. I probably own more disposable masks, gloves, and hand sanitizers now. Oh, I see a doggy.
Yeah.
Lucky dog.
Hand sanitizer now. I'm easily distracted. It's a dog. It's a dog. But we travel with so much stuff, so there's no reason why you guys can't be compliant when you're out there. But the texting notification system has just been phenomenal, and we'll of course use it at Charlotte as well. I mean, I don't know if you guys realize this is 18 hours of racing over 3 days. That's a lot of seat time.
And we just want to talk to all our friends, soon to be friends at Lucky Dog. We apologize because we will have 3 cars and 18 hours of racing. So we will be using that text thing a lot because, you know, it's just how our cars are. But, you know, it's okay. We don't mean it.
All right, you can
just
give
happens.
me, how about your parts list before we leave? So all I have to do is a check mark.
Well, luckily we're smart
Give you a
enough.
control arm.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, the good thing is we've got all the common things between a BMW E36, a Chevy S10, and a Honda Civic. So all those parts cross over so easily. That's not a problem whatsoever for us.
Yeah, 18 hours is going to be quite a while. And, I know you had asked me about, do you need headlights?
I did.
We are going to be running under full track lighting, which a lot of other groups don't.
Right.
So you will not require headlights. And we're also going to be using the front and back chicanes, which the other groups don't use. So we're going to shake it up a little bit while we're out there.
So that is a question I wanted to bring up. What is this race weekend going to entail? Because it sounds like there's going to be a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah,
There's
baby.
always a bunch of stuff going on. Well, this weekend we will be partnering with a group called GHiT Track Days that are big on the West Coast. It's actually one of the co-owners of Chill Out Systems. That's how we kind of made this connection with our
Nice.
series sponsor. So what will happen is on Friday, we will run we'll get everybody moved in and checked in. We'll run an evening race. You'll park the car under something called Park Ferm, which basically means you park your car and you don't touch it overnight. You don't do anything to it. And we leave everybody in position. And then on Saturday, we resume the race. So while it's two parts of the race, it's one race. So there'll be a set of trophies for that particular race. And
Have you
then
seen our cars, Kathy? They don't last that long.
No, I've only seen the crappy cars we provide you.
Yeah, well,
So,
that's true. These might actually be a little better than that one, but we'll
I
see.
was
Just
so
feel right at home.
excited.
Just for the record, with those crap, it was awesome. So
I'll be
Oh,
so
sorry.
excited just to run our own cars in this circuit. Just
No,
something
I
that's
know you
familiar and
will.
comfortable.
I don't blame you whatsoever. I'm hoping that what you bring is definitely better than what we've load you in the past when you've trekked all the way across
We
country with
figure
us.
between the three cars, we've got a chance at seeing the second day for the first time.
Mm. And the third day?
Oh, let's one step at a time. One step
One
at a
step
time.
at a time. So Saturday we'll finish our race, and then Jayzilla's track day, which we can join. And if the group, if a team wants to do both Lucky Dog and Jayzilla, there's a great discount discussed on your website for both organizations. So Jayzilla will run, and the rest of us on Saturday night will be hosting a barbecue. You've been to one of our parties.
They're awesome.
So we'll be social distancing, but we're going to have a nice barbecue. And there's over $10,000 in sponsor prizes that are going to be given out during this event, both at Saturday night's raffle and then, of course, for podium. I mean, Hankook is providing $3,000 in free tires. We've got Chill Out donating a system, which is a $2,500 value. Neck devices from Next Gen, race capture systems, and then, of course, Rebellion timepieces. There's $10,000 in custom watches being given out this weekend. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. But we've been able to do dinner at a couple events so far, as long as we social distance and it's, all handled the right way. And we're going to be using the Tracks Barbecue group, so they know the drill. And so then on Sunday in the morning, Jayzilla goes out and finishes up their day, and then we get on track for 10 hours. That's going to be the big kahuna. 10 hours, and we'll be under the lights and finish at, I think it's 10 o'clock Saturday night. So that's going to be the big deal. And of course, there's camping in the paddock, just being all together. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Cannot wait. This is looking like it's going to be our only race this year.
What?
Yeah. Well, we've only been HPDEing at the moment, and that's only been very limited because, here on the East Coast, they have, since New York, they have really cranked everything down. And they're just being super extra cautious. And everybody out here is super extra. Well, majority of people are super extra cautious. So we did go to Gingerman, and they had a race the following weekend, but it was no
No visitors.
fans, so we couldn't stay for it. And I think that was one of the closest ones that we had that was available.
Well, most of them have been canceled. And,
Mhm.
you know, if this wasn't your first ever East Coast race and it wasn't you guys, we would probably not be going. But we are not missing your first ever race. We will be there. If it's this year, we'll
This
be
is
there. If
true.
it's next year. You know, so
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I mean, we've definitely have demonstrated this last month that we can be safe out there and behave and still get to go racing. You know, the one thing about, you know, Lucky Dog is we try to make it very inclusive and easy to do business with us. As you guys know, we have no licensing fees, we have no membership fee, we have no crew fee. You pay for your drivers and you bring your crew along. And we've also added a referral program. So if teams have referred folks, both groups get a discount. So they just need to email us, and we posted it out on our social media today. So that'll help. We understand that teams are all struggling. We're all struggling, whether it's financially with being furloughed from jobs to, you know, friends not being able to work on race cars, to spouses not wanting you at the track. And so we've just tried to make it as easy as possible to come and run with us and at an affordable price. The other thing is, you know, normally when you come to a Lucky Dog event, we have very few rules. One is the car's got to be 15 years or older. If it's not, we have a class called Super Dog. And we also require 180 treadwear tire, but it's an SR4 from Hankook Motorsports. And so normally you have to run a Hankook Motorsport tire when you run with us. This race is an exemption, which means as long as you run any 180 tread, we're totally delighted. If you happen to be running Hankook Motorsports tires, which are not to be confused with consumer tires that you could possibly get through Tire Rack or another dealer, you are in contention to win this $3,000 worth of tires. So, and we've also got such killer pricing on these tires and guaranteed stock in 10 sizes now that it's almost worth going to the event just to score a great deal on Hankook tires.
which they are awesome. You know, we will be running ours with our Lucky Dog insignias right on the side, so count on that. We have to place an order for our new car, the third car, the 196 car, which will be making its debut on the East Coast. We will be there. And
196, what a very lucky number. I say with a smirk.
We're hoping. You know, we figured the third time's the charm, right?
And you know what's unfortunate is that Eric is not going to be coming out for this event. Unfortunately. I think he's terrified.
No.
Yes, I just found that out. He just took a new job. He's still with Lucky Dog, but he's got a new job that pays some bills, as opposed to spend all your money on it when you work for Lucky Dog Racing. So he is unfortunately unable to join us, but the rest of the crowd will be here.
Oh, we had a nice Honda for him and everything.
I know. I think I'm gonna have to remind him of this. He may have to call in sick.
I think I feel it coming on. You know, you don't want to go into work sick right now.
These days it's all bad to call in sick. Yeah, I've got a sniffle. All right, don't show up for 2 weeks.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't think he realizes that there's a 196 Honda. So we're gonna have to go back and revisit this one. But the rest of the group will be flying out. Everybody keeps asking, "Oh, are you guys driving out?" We're gonna ship everything and fly out just like the good old days. Greg's actually gonna be driving with the Slomans.
Very nice.
And
we'll be saying hi as they drive past us.
Yeah, wave by. Oh, I don't know. We shipped out one of our old Datsons to them. So we'll see. They may end up, this may be 196X or something like that. But so Greg will be driving with another team. Brent Sloman's been working busily on this 280Z that we shipped across country to them. They were kind enough to allow Greg to drive their car for Lemons at Road Atlanta. So they're returning the favor.
So, how many people do you think might be flying out from the West Coast? Or are we mostly going to be having East Coasters this time?
You know, obviously it's going to be a lot easier for the East Coast group to join us, but we do have several teams that are driving out. And I've got days, if anybody's got a rental car or seats to rent, I've got days of West Coast dogs that are eagerly looking to join a team. So if you're sitting on the fence and, a little worried about not having enough drivers, there's definitely a bunch of people out here that are still looking for a ride.
Well, we have more seats than we have people, so we will definitely, once we get everybody to make their final decision, we will let you know.
Okay, absolutely, because both on our Lucky Dog Racers group Facebook page and then on our forum off of our website at www.racelucky.com, we have a forum called The Dog Pile, and you'll see a category, it's called Lucky Match. And that's where all the horse trading goes on. You know what I normally see because we get a lot of folks from the Midwest and East that comes out to run with Lucky Dog. And what I'm seeing more and more of is teams swapping seats. We certainly have allowed people to come run with us for example, at Laguna Seca. And the next time we're on the East Coast, we get offered quite a few opportunities on the East Coast to go run things. So it's kind of cool that this has kind of become a commodity and people, are wheeling and dealing all the time in order to go to some tracks that they would never, ever have had the opportunity to go to. And you guys have run with Lemons. Have they ever raced at Charlotte?
No, not that we're aware of.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that either. And so when folks are able to trade, for things like tracks, Charlotte or Laguna Seca, where Lemons hasn't been, that's always been really attractive to teams to get on a new track.
Well, there's some Lucky Dog teams that can definitely weaken my ability to say no by mentioning Thunderhill.
Thunderhill, yes, we'll be going there in November for our 5 mile. We're gonna call it. We're working on this right now. The 1,000 miles of Thunderhill. So that's all I'm going to tell you right now. But there's a new twist for when we go back there in November for our championship, which is open to everybody. But that's such a great track. We're only 2 hours from Thunderhill, and it's probably 150 degrees up there today. But it's such an awesome track to be so close to.
Absolutely. So the weakness would get even better if it's a 2021 Thunderhill. That would be awesome. Anyway,
okay. I will take that under advisement.
Not a problem. It's on the bucket list. So you've got a lot of people who could be coming from the East Coast and maybe aren't familiar with Lucky Dog. Do you want to kind of go into a little bit about your series and a little bit about, most of the people around here, they run AER, Champ Car, and Lemons. Probably Lemons the most. I think it's got the biggest fields, but
and WRL. And WRL. Yeah. A lot of these teams know me from when I was with Chump Car. That's so a lot of folks do know us, and the amount of messages, especially in the last year, and which was part of what drove, we always try to do one event outside our region. Last year it was Utah, and this year it's coming to Charlotte. But we had so many folks saying, we'd love to have you come to the Midwest, the East Coast, etc. And we would love to be lots of other places. We do 14 events out here, plus, we've got Lucky Dog Canada. So we've already got a really, really full schedule to begin with. So we're working on our 2021 planning right now, which looks like it's going to include Sonoma, which will be a neat addition because we're personally like 20 minutes from that track. And then also looking, we've been in discussions with VIR for next year. So we'll probably add a couple things, but the whole premise of Lucky Dog is being easy to work with. You know, one of the things, and I've been doing this about 12 years now, and just even my experience, and my background is, you know, at the dirt track where rules are always broken. That's all I'm going to say. And there are a lot of cheating goes on and all that good stuff and claiming engine stuff. My philosophy is during the week, life is so hard. I know in our household, it's, you know, young adults not getting along all the time, aging parents, you know, spouses, work, finances, all that stuff. I want everybody's weekend to be blissful. And so when they come to Lucky Dog, I want it to be as easy as possible to do business with us. So as an example, when you go to our rule book, it's only 16 pages. Most of it is safety related because the only two rules I have is the car has to be 15 years or older, and you also have to have your 180 Fredwood tires, SR4s. So right there, you've removed this whole element of cheating because it's whatever you have. If it fits in within the spirit of the series, you can run with us because we use a qualifying model. So the usually day one of our events include a 40-minute practice qualifying session, and that's our first data point as the day goes on to whether a car is A, B, or C classes. So what's nice about that is you can bring out the Honda and you can bring out the E36, and there's going to be a place for you to run, and you're actually racing what I always refer to as like dogs. So we've got the Chihuahuas racing Chihuahuas and the Greyhounds racing Greyhounds. We keep a real good eye on cheetahs, which aren't even a dog anymore. So the only way that you don't fit into Lucky Dog is if you have just a blazingly fast car. And I know a lot of those types of cars run in AER and WRL. We're, you know, again, getting back to being inclusive, we're trying to make sure that we've got a safe track where there's new drivers, experienced drivers, fast cars, slow cars, and we all have to coexist together. So what I'm really managing is a safe speed differential when we're out on the track. And again, keep it easy, make it easy to register, make it easy to do with us, make the weekend at the track as easy as possible, all the way through that checkered flag. That's our goal. And all of us are racers. So we know what it's like to sit. We have something called the doghouse, but we know what it's like, you know, to get a black flag and, you know, passing under yellow and all those things that get kind of frustrating. We're trying to get you back on track and not having you sit in a penalty box. So those are the things that are really different about Lucky Dog, and we're incredibly accessible and approachable to our community, which we refer to as Dog Nation.
Well, you should be thankful that we're coming then, because we're keeping your speed differential down because, you know, we can manage to run a Honda, a Chevy S10, and an E36 and all be within a second of each other. You know, it's not the car.
Yeah, it's not the car. We know about that. I love it when, you know, we're going to have Randy Post with us for this event, and he's going to bring his own Volvo, but he brings, you know, usually comes to our events, almost all of them. It's really cool. And he's driving other people's cars. And the one thing that they say the minute he gets out of the car is, oh my God, it's not the car, it's us. So, and just because cheetahs aren't necessarily a good thing, we also sometimes have to tell the slow cars to pick up the pace a little bit, but
We're trying.
we'll come out and give you a push. Don't worry about it.
Pedaling as fast as we can.
So when was the last time then you've actually been out wheel to wheel racing? Last season?
Laguna with you.
Oh, really?
And Alan and Jen didn't even get to go. They
Yep.
they were in school, so the last time they went was New Hampshire, I think. And that
So
was
this would
in
be cool to have
October.
everybody. Yeah, to have everybody together.
The way we're looking at it is there is no excuse why our cars should not be perfect for the track.
Have you seen me fix a car? We
Well,
still have an excuse.
You're not allowed near the cars.
We still have an excuse.
It's cheaper if you don't go near the cars.
True.
Oh, we've been, everybody's like, well, what have you been doing for quarantine for 90 days? We still have two E40 or two E36s that neither one of them are running. So it's almost better to pack the stuff up and go to the track on Friday night and thrash on it with your friends, because nothing gets done when you're at home, at least at our house.
Oh, speaking of which, the last time you were on, there was a suspicion that there's an E46 floating around. Have you managed to locate said E46?
Yeah, see, it kind of slipped out. He's still not copping to it, but when we were at the last race, there was a little rumor out on pit lane. I think it's hidden somewhere in the Pacific Northwest at the moment, but I think that there is an E46 that belongs to the Fuss family that I'm not fully aware of yet.
It might just be a
Just a
rumor, though.
hunch.
You never know. That telephone game, someone says this thing and then it goes around. It could be.
Okay, that's how I ended up with two E36s.
That's an E72. It's easy.
Today's purchase wish list and how I started my morning was he found a motorhome for us. So I'm trying to convince him that a motorhome is probably not something we need to be purchasing at the moment, but he's always buying something. In fact, he's not even home right now. He's probably looking at this motorhome that I told him not to buy.
It's near the E46, so he's got to do what
I'm
he's got to
sure
do.
it is. Probably the same race family. Who knows? But that man, I think there's a lot of race cars in this world that have been purchased and hidden.
I'm not familiar with this concept. It's something new I've never heard of.
Yeah, how could anyone ever do that? That seems so unreasonable. It seems like
There's no way.
Like, how could you mislead your spouse that way?
no,
I have no idea.
There's no way.
We would
There's no
never,
way.
never.
Nope.
Nope.
Never come home like when it's dark and just go around the back of the house, park the truck back there. Never done that.
Never done that.
That trailer was there, and the car on it. I don't know how you missed it.
Oh gosh, you guys are all the same. Well, I told you about the time and this wasn't that long ago, I was at a grocery store nearby, and somebody stopped me in the grocery store and said, "Hey, you need to tell your husband he needs to get his race car out of my grandma's yard." And I'm like, "What race car?
Wow.
What grandma?" So I do know that there is things scattered around our town, certainly in our neighborhood, that belongs to my husband. And it
Unbelievable.
used to be Camaros that were hidden because we were doing dirt track racing in the early days. So now he's moved on from hiding the Camaros, the late model Camaros, to hiding BMWs. I think there might be an RX-7 though hidden somewhere.
I can't believe this. I mean, I
Sounds so
don't.
strange. I don't even recognize any of this.
Yeah, I didn't even think of something like this ever. Never.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Love it. Well, we're going to see you in a couple weeks.
We hope
This
so.
is
Yeah.
crazy. And then it'll be time for you to come back out to Laguna Seca in January.
It may be. I think.
Right.
I think we are taking it overly cautious with our team. We've got a bunch of people who, I think our racing is going to be HPDE limited, mostly until we see some type of vaccine or some type of treatment. So we will try to get there, though.
Mhm.
Yeah, I get it. A lot of things are still up in the air. Well, that invitation is always open to you.
Oh, we'll be
And I
taking
swear to
it.
God, we don't invite you out just to work on race cars. I know that's been the theme.
Well, I thought you just wanted to prove that, you know, the 196 can be rebuilt during the weekend. I thought that was what our purpose was.
Oh, no, I owe you a real race car next time that you're out.
It would be really great to like do a road trip with Jennifer with a race car.
You know, it would be even
No.
better. Now, I just top of my head, it just came to mind. If only we had an extra race car that we could ship out there one time.
Yeah, but you wanted to ship one to Colorado too. He wants
And
to dot cars all over the U.S.
He wants one in every state.
No,
Yeah.
not every state.
This is what he's working on right now.
I mean, they say don't put all your eggs in one basket. So isn't that kind of like don't put all your race cars in one zip code? Isn't that
So we get the car, we prep it up,
Yeah.
we bring it out, we race with some new friends or friends we already know. They would then keep the car. Feel free to use it. Just make sure it's good to go for the next race when we come out. Life would be so easy. I don't see a downside.
And see, Greg wants to leave a car on the East Coast.
Well, Greg, garageheroesintraining@gmail.com. We may not need to ship anything. We have cars here. You have cars there. I like that
I think we could
E46, by
work
the way.
something out.
We
Oh,
could
yeah,
I
definitely-
think
wants
we
to-
should,
Definitely
instead
work
of
something
doing
out.
that, we should do a car swap with a team.
Right? That's also available. We can work this out. We want 1 or 2 races out with you every year. And if you come east, we'll add that and make it a third. So we're trying to help.
Where
What's
else should we? What other track should we try to add?
We've
to
heard
this?
the one up in Washington is awesome.
Yeah, the ridge is just unbelievable. It's like Laguna Seca, but better, and it's dropped in a forest and tons of runoff. So for new drivers, it's a beautiful place to be. But yeah, that's an amazing track. Have you ever been to Sonoma?
I know there's sheep. Well, I've been there, but I never raced there.
There's goats, not sheep.
Whatever.
Ah!
It's
All
something
right,
that
now
shouldn't
down
be in
the
my way.
bag.
There's a difference between goats and sheep.
Yeah, you need to ask Gavin and Kristen Hembry out at Faster Farms. They'll tell
we
you
talked
all
to
about
them.
it. Yeah, they're groovy people.
Yep.
Groovy people. They live not too far from us, and that's where we've been able to do Flocktoberfest every year, except this year it's on hiatus due to COVID.
Flocktoberfest.
Well, we need to make.
Flocktoberfest, because they live on a 7-acre chicken ranch, but now they have goats, and there's days of race cars.
Are you sure they're not
you
sheep?
won't believe. They're not.
Okay. Well, something like that. I mean, they both keep the grass short, don't they?
Oh, I'm not even going here.
Hey,
But yeah, no,
your East Coast could be Lucky Sheep Racing instead of
lucky sheep race, yeah.
or Lucky
No,
Goats if you want to go that way. I mean, same thing, same.
I'm always amazed when Greg and I are, out traveling, 1,000 miles each weekend, for a race. And you pull into somewhere and someone comes by and says, well, what kind of dogs do you all race? And not only am I horrified by the thought of, oh my God, people still race dogs, somewhere, that would be all bad. But we always do tease, oh yeah, we race Chihuahuas. We recently started racing Dachshunds. It's amazing what people will believe.
Yep. Vicki has an RV rental story about that. Do you remember?
I don't.
So we were trying to rent the RV for Portland, and the guys that we were renting it from, the family we were renting it from, kept saying, "Well, you're not allowed to bring dogs," and we're like, "Well, okay," and
Yeah.
and so every time we talked to them on the phone, it's you can't have dogs in here.
They said, are you sure? And I'm like, no, we're not bringing a dog. and
Apparently, we're going to run dogs around Portland International Raceway. I mean,
right. So he just didn't understand. He goes, wait a minute, let me call you. I said, okay.
Oh my gosh.
So we talk on the phone. I'm like, oh no, lucky dog. No, it's not a dog race. It's not a dog race.
It's interesting. I mean, it's ended up being such a cool brand. It really has.
It is.
But there are times when people have stopped us and I just shake my head. So we're going to have to add a sticker that says, endurance racing or something that goes with it. But that's funny that you guys have had a dog experience as well.
That's right. Oh, and your stickers are stuck wonderfully. So wherever you get them from, fantastic. They stay on our trailer all the time.
Good. Yeah. No, anybody who wants a trailer sticker, and it's a 28-inch sticker, we send them out for free.
You do?
We have folks all over the country running Lucky Dog decals. So we'll bring some of them to Charlotte with us to make sure we get them on some trailers out there. But yeah, no, that brand's been a lot of fun. As you know, we're serious cat people. We live on a street called Kitty Lane. I don't know how this dog thing ended up being so out of control, but it's certainly been a blessing.
I love it.
So we've got to come up with a really fast dog for you instead of a cheetah. I think like greyhounds or something might be.
Yeah, I don't know. I love greyhounds. Have you ever seen the amount of dogs that come to our events?
Yes.
It's crazy. Lots of huskies.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of huskies, I've noticed. So we do have a dog. We've got a Shiba Inu. He's like a miniature Akita. And we can't take him to races because we took him to Portland one year. And you may know Cameron Evans, who races with Bimmer World, but he was running Redline Oil for quite a while. And out of Portland, our dog Taz jumps up and bites him in the ass through his fire suit. I was never so embarrassed in my life. So here's our sponsor getting chomped on. So Taz gets kenneled now when we go to the races. Can't be trusted with any sponsors.
That's Lucky Dog on brand, though.
He'll bite you in the ass.
Right. If you're not moving fast enough.
Get your bit in the ass. So it'll be fun.
Very nice.
It's good to talk to you guys. I can't wait to see you in a couple weeks. Make sure you round up a few more teams. We're really hoping that some of as you know, out here in the West Coast, more than half of our teams come from Lemons, and we just love our Lemons friends. I drove personally in the first two Lemons races at Altamont, and Greg still runs with Lemons all the time. So we're hoping that we get some of our Lemons friends to come out as well. So, and again, we've got a referral program. Just give us a holler.
I think we're working on our referral program, but I'm just saying, Greg, call us. You know the number. We can make this happen.
All right.
I love it.
I'll make sure that Eric knows about car 196 too.
That's right.
I don't think he realized that was in the cards.
Oh, it had to happen. So we're just going to try to keep it on the track this time. All right, Miss Cathy, we're looking forward to seeing you in Charlotte. We will be at the Roval 3 days, sometimes under sunlight, sometimes under track light. It'll be awesome. Our first night race. It should be fun. It should only be 150 degrees. It'll be great.
With your air-conditioned mask.
Well, if we go fast enough, it's windy in the car, so it's no big deal. It's when you stop.
True. All right. Well, I miss you, Garage Heroes.
Well, we will keep your speed differential down, or actually we'll probably expand it because we'll be the slow one side. So, just got to get rid of those fast people.
I don't know. We might do pretty well if we bring our own car.
Maybe. And you don't drive front wheel drive, so that'll be good. Thank you, Miss Cathy. Thanks for coming again. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. All right. Take care, friends.
Thank you.
Bye. Hi, Ben. I keep hearing this term that's kind of kicking around called throttle steering. I have no idea what that is. Can you explain that out to us?
It's not something I really think about that much either. I hear the term too, but I think people mean just to say that, they're sort of like you got the car already turned, I guess, or you already got your radius set, and you're just going to kick the throttle in a certain way to make the car turn. I think it's sort of, people say drive with your feet. That's part of it. What do you think, Bill?
Well, I mean, I've heard the you slow down with the steering wheel and you turn with the gas pedal. Is where I hear throttle.
Yeah, you could definitely influence the rotation of the car with a throttle pedal. So you may be already doing all the other stuff that you would normally be doing in a turn, but when it's, you need a little bit of extra rotation, the car will kick out as you apply the throttle. So you do throttle steer, I guess. So that's what that is. It's sort of like trail braking for me. It's not one of these things that I consciously think about while I'm driving, but I'm sure I'm doing it. But it's not like, I just throttle steer through Oak Tree. But I know that it's a thing people talk about.
How did I know we'd be at VIR before this was done? So
it's an hour away. What am I going to do?
I know.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of story time. So I was at the NASA HPD a couple weeks back, and we changed a little bit of the setup in the car. Now the car used to have a staggered tire setup where the front was 215 and the back was 225. We changed the tires to where it was 225 front, 225 back, and the car was what I don't know that I'm right, but I would say the car was neutral. It didn't understeer or oversteer. And in this instance, that's where I started thinking in this one turn, it's 180 degrees. It's called Keyhole at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah.
I felt like I was throttle steering around that turn, because if I wanted to turn tighter, I'd come off the gas a little bit. And if I wanted to turn a little looser, I'd come on to the gas. And then I really, thinking about it, I didn't consciously know, but I really think my steering wheel input was almost straight for the back half of that turn.
I think that's what I was sort of guessing at. What we're talking about is you kind of you're in a turn, you're already doing the things you think you need to be doing to turn, but you want to influence the way the car pulls into the turn. Like Bill said, you can come out of the throttle a little more maybe, and sometimes you'll feel the car suck right down at the apex a little bit better, or maybe it'll take a tighter radius if you just let off the throttle. But if you want to bend it out or push it a little bit wider, you can definitely stay with more throttle. So is that what you're talking about, Bill?
Just kind of, if I wanted a little more, let's call it a fade to the track out, I would just push the throttle a little more. And if I was going too far, I'd just not go on quite as early or not go on quite as aggressively. And that was, to me, essentially, I wasn't using the steering wheel, so I was steering with the throttle. So to me, that's throttle steer. But
and when you think of it in terms like that, it sounds like something that's a great tool to have in your toolkit for traffic. Because you may be in traffic and you're in there like, I'm trying to go in here 2 or 3 wide. I don't know if I let off a little more, not having to give up too much else, it'll put me in position to get inside this other car or something like that. So I think if you think of this in terms of a good tool to have in your toolbox and a good thing to understand, like, all right, how does the car react when I just blast a little more throttle through here? Is it going to push me out a little bit wider? These are good things to understand, but also important to understand is that for your car, there is still an ideal approach, all by yourself fast lap that shouldn't come down to whether or not you're throttle steering. Because our ideal is that we use every geometrical advantage when we're all by ourselves. So we're all the way at the, all the way to the far one extreme of the track before we turn in. We turn in all the way down to the apex every time. And then we track out using every bit. And we don't drive out to the track out point. We're not like steering our way out there. We're doing it fast enough that the car is forced out there. You don't have any choice but to have your outside tires hitting the exit curve. So that's your result when you're driving right. Like when you're driving a good time trial lap all by yourself. So there is an ideal approach. But then there's also an approach where, tools like throttle steer, stuff like that may come in, due to different track condition factors or traffic. But I wouldn't say, typically there's an ideal way to do it. You should also be aware of what your ideal is too. But does that make sense?
I think so. Jen, do you ever feel the difference in your steering response with the gas pedal at different places, or have you noticed that yet?
It's a good question.
No, I'm only driven the truck, really. So no, I haven't really felt too much of a difference.
Okay.
Let's get Jen in the E36.
Well, we want
he
to,
keeps
but
trying to.
She's scared to go in. We'll get her in
The
there.
last time the steering was a bit difficult on the truck.
Yeah, well, it didn't have any, so we'll get you out of there.
That was a problem.
Well, I think coming up at this next HPE we go to, that would be something I'd like you to pay attention to, is that see how the car turns through the curve, and then as later in the session, maybe, or later in the day, or later in the weekend, see how it turns with a little more gas or a little less gas, and you'll notice the difference. I think
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
something. I think you're right at the cusp of the transition between all your tires just go in a nice smooth line to where you actually push the car a little bit and get a little bit of that slip angle and a little bit of that slip, and it's going to be the first time it's going to be a little scary, but you're going to get off the track and you're going to have a big old smile.
But you don't want slip, right?
You do.
Okay.
They want us to slide around that corner with the back end squealing.
A little
But
bit.
isn't that drifting? And you said no drifting.
Let me step in here, folks.
Yeah.
What, is this your segment or something?
Things get a little
I'm
weird. I just want anybody to leave here with any misconceptions. So what we're doing when we're doing performance driving or racing is that we want to use every bit of the available grip that the car has. So if I see a driver driving and I never hear a chirp out of their tires, I know that they're probably driving comfortably, but they're not using every bit of grip that the car has. A happy car, a car that's being used completely, you're going to hear the tires chirp. You hear, a chirping tire. I've always heard this from the old track people. A chirping tire is a happy tire. A screaming tire is not good. So, if your tires are just screaming the whole time, the whole way around the corner, you're doing something wrong. You're definitely not going to be fast. But if you hear like that kind of thing as you're going around, that means that somebody's probably using every bit of that tire just to the very edge, and the little chirp you hear is the driver stepping a little bit over the edge. But if I hear somebody talking about how fast am I going, I go watch their video and I never hear anything out of their tires, I know that they're not going as fast as they can.
Oh, so that takes away my floating around the track scenario.
Right. You keep saying that, and I keep letting you go.
Yeah, I was just going to let you have that one, but that's not a thing.
That's not a thing. Okay. That's just me being happy going fast.
Yeah, I mean, and hey, learning how to get comfortable.
And your ass happy truck.
So if you look at a graph of the coefficient of friction, you'll see that it goes up until it starts to slide just a little bit, and that's when the tires will start to make a little bit of noise.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's this term called stiction, which then means stiction, which is different than friction. And since the tires are soft and squishy, and the road is not perfectly smooth, you get a mechanical interlock of the two. So you actually, once you start to slide, you get a little more grip to a point. And then for each tire, there's a point where that just falls off. And when it falls off, you start to slide. But you want to be right in that little window. And that's when the tire will start to chirp and talk. But you don't want to be flat spot in the tires.
Wait a minute. Now you just tell me I need to have a little bit of skid in my back end. Oh.
No. All.
Wait a minute. Skid in the back end of the truck. Thank you. Back end of the truck.
How am I editing this podcast?
Wasn't there just...
Are you trying to kill my edit?
Wasn't there just a segment that we just had when you wanted me to drift a little bit around the corner?
And I just said it again. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But not drift, slide. A little bit of slip.
We're not talking about like Tokyo Drift like the movies or anything. We're just saying you do want to slip a little bit because also that does get your tires heated up and they do grab the track a little bit better if you're gripping. I didn't know that. I did not know about stiction until today. It's cool. Also, if we're talking about sliding and stuff like that, something to pay attention to when you're choosing your tires. I mean, obviously you guys are running the RS4s, which is kind of universally good, and a tire doesn't have any really bad properties. But a couple of years from now, you probably have to choose a new compound when that one phases out. But one thing to pay attention to, and this has always been the way for me, is there go read reviews and go listen to what people say that seem credible about a tire. If somebody says, hey, this tire and it's legal for your class has great properties, but once it lets go, it doesn't give you any warning. You're just off the track. They're really, that you see that type of review, and if you see it enough times, skip that tire and go to some other tire where nobody's saying that about it. Because there are genuinely some tires that, through whatever reason, they let go faster. It's just they just drop off immediately as soon as you start to slide them. Or there may be other information that's useful in reviews. So like, oh, these are good, but they get greasy after they get hot, something like that. But I think it's always worth giving a little bit of time to go read about a tire before you buy one.
So that's one thing that I think I've talked to a few people, and they say that we drive on DOT tires with most of our races and our HPDs.
Right.
If you go to a true racing slick, the difference between a little bit of noise and I just let go is like really, really, really narrow, and ours are kind of wide, so a little bit more.
But even within those, some are worse than others.
Right,
so,
right.
You know, from my experience with our compound tires, which are still a DOT tire, you know, something like that, there's still usually a few choices out there where they'll give you different results as far as the way they break away.
Right, right. So there's the breakaway at the limit, and then there's the degradation with time. And we tend to, on our team, we tend to like the widest window and the longest stable period. We're willing to give up the fastest top 5, 10 laps or 20 laps. It doesn't matter. We're more worried about, for our team at our level, consistency.
The only RS4 we've ever actually had to pull off the car because it was worn out because one part of it was completely flat.
A flat tire.
I'm not sure we've ever actually worn one out.
They just go. Hankook should totally sponsor us.
Yeah, no kidding. Where you at?
That's right. All right. Any other questions? We good? We're good. Thank you, sir.
We're probably going to go ahead and get rid of the Capri.
Oh, really?
Yes. I think it's beyond our skill set.
Why is that?
Because we don't have any skills.
I was going to say, I'm just asking because I also don't have any skills, so I'm just very curious about what skills I would need to try to do anything with that thing.
Well, the original layout of the Capri, the weak spot was the transmission. So when we blew the engine, we couldn't get a reasonable engine and not have to change the transmission. So what we ended up doing was we put in it's like an 03 V6 Camaro engine and transmission.
Huh.
But we never finished.
Gotcha. So you guys were just ripped into some big drivetrain swap and like, nah.
Well, we just don't know, and now it's like 2 years later, and so
the things are kind of a potential blank canvas for whatever somebody wants to try to jam in there next.
Well, we do have it. It's a blank. You can do anything you want. I'm just saying, if you want, we've got the brand new custom wiring harness for the engine.
Oh yeah.
There. Got the body, which is not great. And then
where is the thing in New Jersey?
It's in Pennsylvania.
Where y'all at?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Bill's got a car purchasing problem right now.
I have no problem purchasing cars.
Yes, and we are being overrun. And
I don't think of it as a problem.
Honestly, I think that the car build that we're going to work on is going to be a Honda, because I think it's going to be more. It's not a build from the ground up.
It's Lego.
Right.
It's more of a modification, and as some of the people that we know are basically saying, it's like a Lego, and it might be something more than welding a floor into a car and then, redoing everything from the ground up. And listen, to be honest, we're not mechanics.
I'm not either. Terrible. The only thing I can do is drive. Like I stare at the Spec 46. I'm trying to not build. Like, gotta get over there and work on that thing.
Well, since we were ditching it, and you had mentioned that you would like it, we thought of like you as the first person. So
that's awesome. Let me if I mention that to the team and it gets anybody else raging, because we're all pretty set on an S10 after I drove Blake's truck. But also that's such a cool car that if the team's got any kind of interest in it, we might jump on that. So I'll ask them what they think. But yeah, what year is it?
74.
Cool.
If you want pictures of it, it's on our website under cars. We're very creative that way.
Okay, gotcha.
And if you want more pictures, we got them too. So
cool.
Mhm.
I mean, that car was crazy loose.
Yeah, to me, that's one of the things I really don't like about front wheel drive is the inherent push. But if you get one, sprung stiff enough in the rear, whatever he's doing to get it bouncy like that, I would love it.
You would have loved it because it was a handful. I mean, Vicki hated it, but it was actually kind of fun. A mental hoop.
I need to send y'all some video where we finally got the E30 loose enough to scare me. And it was the fastest it's ever been, but even I was like,
there is a limit.
But we found it.
So, Miss Cathy, is there a chance you have headphones you could use because your computer keeps tweaking you out?
It does.
Meow.
It's I'm on my phone, that's why. You know what I think it is, Bill, is my, what do you call it? My kids were texting.
I know exactly what it is. It's every time Vicki talks over you, then your microphone goes out. So, Vicki,
I will do my best not to
the bulldozer.
I'm sorry.
You have to be careful.
I'll raise my hand and take my time.
So what happens is Cathy's phone picks up one of us talking, and when she tries to talk, we get up.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So we have to be good. Okay.
Everybody has to take turns.
Everybody's be good. Okay.
Okay. We'll try to be good, but this is going to fail miserably. But you know that already. You've seen us race.